corporate, and everybody knows around that it's kind of a box that we try to fit in and grow up the ladder or the ceiling or whatever you may call it. But at some point in time, I felt, where am I going with this? So that curiosity led me to growing, learning. These are two things that never stopped. In one flight, I was a flight in charge, and I would have to do my crew members' flight review performance as well. I would have to attend to a medical emergency at the same time. I would have to look pleasing and serve with a smile to the customers on the other end in the business class or the first class as well. And also take care of the elderly that are there on board. What really helps is situational awareness. Awareness is huge, and that's what I hold very close to my heart. That is where it really helps, understanding the basics of my job. Why am I here? The big why is the fundamental that keeps you going. Moving around and flying in that plane, so you can imagine how many stories are there, how many anxieties are there, how many depressed people are there. And I've had a death on board experience as well. And it was traumatic for me, to watch the dead. How do we actually stand out in the market from rest of the other university students? They have the same knowledge, they have the same degrees. Then what would make us stand out? So we either grow or we die. Choice is with us all the time. What do we want to do with our life? When you learn to calm down that storm, you get a lot of clarity. But prioritizing that, how important, how urgent it is in my daily task list is the key to improving or increasing productivity. The belief that was taught to us in our childhood that you are weak, you can't do this, or you are fantastic, go on, keep going, that is a belief that kept me going.
Welcome to Masters Decoded Season 4.
What was your wake-up call? What got you to all of
Honestly,
How do you overcome self-doubt?
so first and foremost,
How do you do that emotional quotient? How do you bring that up? My next guest on today's podcast is Nowsheen Yaqoob. Nowsheen is a founder of Auracious Global Consulting. From a humble beginning of a flight attendant to being a founder, she has some amazing perspectives about coaching, training, and more importantly, some amazing fun stories about her travel experience. So without much further ado, let's get on with it. Hi Nowsheen, welcome to Masters Decoded Season 4. Really glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. Hi, Anis, and thanks for inviting me over. So glad to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you.
No, it's an equal pleasure. You are in a country which is very near and dear to me. Before we started recording, I did share about my Dubai acquaintances and my lineage there. And, while India is home for me today, whenever I land in Dubai, it feels like I'm home. So it is home for me. It's my birthplace. So, you are there.
Wonderful.
So this conversation is going to be fun. But let's flip this. This conversation is not about me; it's about you.
Right.
What gave birth to Auracious? And if I'm pronouncing the name of your company, what gave birth to that idea, thought, all about it?
Right. I'm glad you asked that. Auracious means beautiful in real sense, the beauty that comes from within. So beautiful inside out. Now, how Auracious was born, because all my life I was in a corporate environment, 19 plus years, and 17 years out of that in Dubai. So it corporate, and everybody knows around that it's kind of a box that we try to fit in and grow up the ladder or the ceiling or whatever you may call it. But at some point in time, I felt, where am I going with this? If I am climbing the ladder, yes, it's one direction, so linear. Probably I didn't want to grow in a linear direction. I wanted to branch out and see what else there is. So call it human connectedness, call it curiosity. We all are born with that curious mind. And that is what actually gave birth to Auracious, because once I completed all those credentials, because I wanted to help people with authenticity and with the tools and knowledge that I could say that, this is an authentic knowledge, scientific knowledge. And that's what gave birth to Auracious as a platform, as a human development company.
Very, very interesting, because when I look at your career, Nowsheen, and it's been fascinating to see you started off in a training industry, and then you quickly pivoted
Yes.
to being in the travel space, working with some of the formidable brands, both brands which I loved. One of them doesn't exist, and hopefully it gets revived soon, which is Jet Airways.
Hopefully, yes.
But
Yes.
the second brand, Emirates, where you spent good amount of years, and then you
Yes.
moved quickly into university. And
Yes.
then when I say university, you started working at MIT, and you
Yes.
were working there, and then you started your company. So it's been
Absolutely.
the base of connecting with people, helping with people. I see that as a base. But when you look back, are some of those experiences connected for you?
Of course, I would say it's all connected. See, I told you, human and human transformation journey. I would consider myself first into this because being a human, I wanted to understand who am I really? Beyond these labels, beyond the corporate labels, beyond the labels that I'm a woman, that I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mother now. What else can I be? And why should I seek for these roles? What else is beyond that? So that curiosity led me to growing, learning. That is, these are two things that never stopped: personal growth and learning, and then contribution. So these are some of the values that I hold very close to my heart. That's why wherever I was,
Hmm.
whether I was with Jet Airways, whether before that, whether I was with Wipro, and then moving on from genres to genres, from aviation to then education industry. Emirates Airline, I would say, has been a turning point in my life because it's been almost a decade. I worked there for almost a decade, and that's where getting to know many, many other cultures, because I had the blessed fortune of traveling to more than 60 countries and people from different continents, different age groups, different cultures. That is what broadened my vision. And I wanted to know more about what lies beyond these layers, the cultures and the wisdom and the knowledge they share. What else is beyond that? Beyond that is pain. Beyond that are struggles. And some of that I had faced, and many of that I saw people facing, and that's what kind of led me to experience in myself. How is it that the similar thing that I have experienced in my life, how can I help other people? So when you say, is there a link? Yes, definitely there is a link, because when I was with Jet,
Okay.
I was recognized for helping out my colleagues, going beyond the call of my duty. Then the same continued with Emirates. Then professionalism increased, the knowledge increased, and so on. The training and development, then leadership skills, all of that transformed and translated into then education. So working with different age groups. In a day, I would meet close to 500 to 600 people, but that was not really knowing them. That was just meeting them. The curiosity to
Wow.
know them actually founded the material or all of this ground that led me to starting my own
Hmm.
company. And now I'm living my passion, living my profession of helping people all over the world with whatever knowledge I have, with whatever tools I have, especially for those people who are either judged by the society or they have some kind of fear that keeps them stuck within themselves. So I help them very closely.
Now, Sheen, and you've doubled into areas which I really want to double click on. So let's talk about your entire airline industry experience. Now, I have flown a lot in the last decade and continue to fly. I've just taken a flight over the weekend and I'm taking a flight again tomorrow. So I do fly a
Right,
lot. And I wonder, while as a passenger, I have a certain experience, uh,
right.
as a person on the other side has more experience than just my own experience, as an example. Now, yeah, and they are good and bad. I have seen good experiences, I've seen bad experiences, and I've seen pathetic experiences as well. you know
Right.
in those moments of experiences, your dopamine levels, your mental
Yeah.
health, and your own physical space and your own mental space can get challenged.
True.
It can be high, it can be low, and you can have those moments, ups and downs. And in those moments, while you have your friends and colleagues who are around you, sometimes it feels lonely as well, and 35,000 feet high in the air. You know,
Absolutely.
would you want to share your own experiences where you've had these moments, and more importantly, how you've been able to get back to yourself and say, hey, this is a moment, let it pass through, let it go through.
Right. Absolutely. There have been experiences, and not just one, many, many experiences. I would say every flight is a different flight altogether. It's a different experience because no flight you will carry the same people with you, and no flight you will fly with the same people, like the set of staff members or the crew members. It will be different. Maybe one or two would be familiar faces, but with an airline like the magnanimity of the genre that Emirates is, we hardly used to get to see each other, this familiar faces. So yes, there used to be a lot of experiences. For example, in one flight, I was a flight in charge, and I would have to do my crew members' flight review performance as well. I would have to attend to a medical emergency at the same time. I would have to look pleasing and serve with a smile to the customers on the other end in the business class or the first class as well. And also take care of the elderly
Mhm.
that are there on board. And if something happened, or if there was another incident that possibly required a restraint, that also happened during my flight experience. So all of that does kind of throw your hormones or your mood or mental health into a frenzy. And then that's where the knowledge, the training, and the peer support that Emirates Airline provided us was absolutely fantastic. And what really helps is situational awareness. Awareness is huge, and that's what I hold very close to my heart. Auracious, if you see the work, it's very huge on building awareness, and through awareness, we help people realize where they are at this level and where is it that they want to go. So it was the same in my flying experience as well, if not same each flight, but yes, on very specific flights, for example, Chinese flights, it was a shared test of patience because of the language, because I didn't know the language, and how do we actually converse? So it was all symbolic. It was all grabbing hold of some crew members who were actually speaking the language and trying to manage the time, space, and other responsibilities. It was a
Mhm.
shared test of patience, but that's what leadership is all about. You have to go through it. At the same time, you have a choice whether to be vulnerable with your team or not. And many a times I was, because that's,
Yeah.
in all honesty, we are humans. We can't put a fake face and just go and say that, I don't do emotions. That's not possible. We are humans. So, emotional intelligence, I would say, another thing that has kept me going all these years. When I started recognizing my own emotions and understanding them, only then I could understand and experience what the other person is going through. So, these are some of the things, that would help me get back on the ground and helped me live a kind of a normal schedule. And what else helped was a part-time, dual role of training and
Yeah.
flying. That kind of kept me going in both the spaces. I had the best of the flying experience. I had the best of the training experience. So that's in a
Yeah.
in a nutshell my experience with flying aviation.
But always one thing which fascinates me, Nausheen, is when I look at the crew, when I look at the people who are in the plane and who are serving always with a smile, there may
Right.
be a lot going on behind them. Uh, in that moment, back home, in life, but they have to put on a nice smile and be friendly. But at the end of the day, they are human as well. Uh, and
Absolutely.
the training in that sense takes a lot of effort, and more importantly, putting on that mask or that facade. Sorry if I'm saying that it's a facade, but putting on that facade,
It
you can
is
only live through that. If it's a 16-hour flight, 12-hour flight, you
true.
can only put for the first couple of hours. You can't live through it for the next 12 hours. uh,
True.
it takes a lot of effort. And I highly appreciate, by the way, people who are in the airline industry. And unfortunately, people get stereotyped. A lot of judgments get passed onto the individuals who are working in that space. And I have a
True.
higher regard for them, because the kind of experiences anybody would be facing through that 12-hour or even a 2-hour journey can never give, or you can never have any experience in working on the ground as well. So I'm talking more about that, keeping that headstrong mental energy for the 12 hours,
Right.
16 hours flight is tough. While and you mentioned about your crew, your people being vulnerable in front of your own
Yes.
team, but being vulnerable in front of the guest is a different ask altogether, and it's not recommended as well.
True.
So how do you balance that aspect?
It's a very interesting question, actually, and I would say I have had the blessed fortune of building some amazing relationships while I was flying and meeting some fabulous people who, on the other end, also understood what human connectedness meant in real sense. And when we go by labels, okay, crew member, okay, she or he is supposed to serve me, or I have creme de la creme expectations because it's a creme de la creme airline. Yes, of course, but at the end of the day, we're all catering to our needs. I am there because I have a need.
Mhm.
Whether it's a learning, a growth, or a monetary need, I am there for my needs. That other person is in that flight from point A to point B. For them, it's not just a journey. For them, it's an experience. So,
Yeah.
as a flight attendant, if I would understand that, what is it that they really expect from us or me as an individual, that is where it really helps, understanding the basics of my job. Why am I here? The big why is the fundamental that keeps you going, the purpose that keeps you going. Why this flight? Why that flight? Why this customer, for example, this guest, for example, and why my crew members, for example? How should I actually be on the top of the game without feeling exhausted? Yes, it is exhausting. It is, trust me, it is beyond exhausting. But a lot of self composure, a lot of some techniques. For example, I used to be in, I used to practice yoga a lot, and that kind of kept me
Nice.
quite calm, quite composed. Yes, in situations like turbulence, in situations like if at all there was an evacuation, people start taking flight attendants
Was there
seriously.
one for you
Only,
in your
God forbid,
experience?
not really evacuation, but yeah, turbulence. There have been many, many experiences. There was a restraint as well. So yeah, there are a lot of, when you have in that metal tube, when you have 300 plus cultures moving around and flying in that plane. So you can imagine how many stories are there, how many anxieties are there, how many depressed people are there, how many happy people are there, and how many beyond happy people are there.
Yeah.
If they have had a few more drinks, then that's
Yeah.
beyond happiness for them. That they get out of control. So yeah, it's been a
Definitely.
fabulous experience, but definitely when it
Yeah.
comes to mental health, that needs to be kept in check. And I really appreciate the kind of support some of the organizations, and one of them, obviously, I had the fortune to work with Emirates, the kind of support after the flight, if some incident happened on the flight, and I've had a death on board experience as well. And it was
Oh
traumatic
wow.
for me, to watch the dead. And I was like 2 months into flying. I was literally like a baby in that aircraft.
Wow.
To the whole flight, like 7 hours, I saw the dead body in front of me. Obviously, we couldn't pronounce the person dead. It was up to the medical authorities, but we knew because we tried everything we could to save that person. So that was my first experience with mental health trauma at that time, which really, after we landed on ground, there was a lot of paperwork, a lot of admin formalities. But once I was out of that uniform, that's where it hit me. That's where the real person and the real challenge begins. Who do you talk to? You may not choose to talk to your family, but then that's where you have to build your own circle. You either look for a community that is either engaged into these kind of programs, or just to someone who is a confidant, just open your heart out. That really helped me. And to some people, I became that confidant. That's how the journey, the story, the learning, and the growth really started.
Wow. So, just on the lighter note, and these
Yeah,
experiences, I always recommend to people who are flying or who've been in these experiences to write a blog or continue to write articles for each experiences. I'm sure people would love it, reading
right.
them, good and bad both. But just on the lighter note, which one was your best route which you would want to fly every day?
Actually, I can't just name one best or one favorite because it depends. If I liked just spending some quiet time in the woods, it would be Switzerland. Hands down, it would be that. Because I'm from
Nice.
Kashmir and I know the value of nature. I love being
Hmm.
close to nature. Here also, whenever the weather is nice, I try and find time to get out in the open, that fresh air. So yes, some of the places that I have been to, the colder places, I really kind of appreciated because of the cold breeze at that time, and I really enjoyed that. When it comes to, of course, the hustle of the city and nightlife and all of that, Seoul, not South Korea. That was my one of my favorite destinations. Technology,
Oh,
neon
nice.
lights, forward thinking. Yes, these have been a couple of destinations that are very, very, in my top favorite lists.
And flipping this question, the most dreaded ones?
Honestly, I wouldn't say there was any dreaded one, but yes, there was kind of a scary experience. We were all like protected like a bubble, and that
Wow.
was Nigeria, Lagos. Whenever we used to fly there, we would be in. It felt like an armored vehicle, and then there was a protection jeep behind. In the front, the hotel was in a secured area, so literally,
Wow.
I felt like I shouldn't step out of the hotel. But we still flew to those destinations, and the people were absolutely amazing. It's just that we had to follow certain rules, otherwise, probably being the rebel I have been from my childhood, I would have stepped out
Yep.
and just, yeah. So it's been quite a fabulous, fabulous experience.
Switching gears from an airline experience to
Right.
stepping into a university
Yeah.
where you are still working and engaging with a lot of people, not one. And these are young individuals, all of them. And you yourself have been in their shoes, being in a university, being
Absolutely.
in a program, and then you reliving in a way in that same space, but also trying to work with them, trying to coach them, trying to get them do better in their own lives. You know, if you can share what were the key thoughts or the key learnings which you take back from Amity and which you apply in Auracious, would love to hear that.
So when you say transferring those skills from Amity into Auracious, yes, I relived a lot of my teenage experience that I had, like functioning and going on with limited guidance or no mentorship at all. Back then, when I was in Kashmir, there wasn't any YouTube available. There was no Facebook at that time. So we would catch hold of whoever was available for mentorship, for guidance, and it took a lot of time. And that's what experience I transferred to these students, because it was a different genre. They were youngsters. They were at
Nice.
crossroads with what do we do? Where do we go with our stream of education, the technical skills that we have, the hard skills that we have? How do we actually stand out in the market?
Hmm.
From rest of the other university students, they have the same knowledge, they have the same degrees. Then what would make us stand out? That how, what, why gave birth to employability skills program that I ran with MIT University, and I specialized in that when I was head of student services and development, and that's where the training and development at MIT started. When I helped these students on their self-esteem, self-confidence, self-image issues, gave them some personal coaching as well. And obviously, during that time, I was actually completing these life coaching, master life coaching certification, neuro-linguistic programming, used those elements, those fundamentals, blended them into my training programs, in my workshops. Because academia is more on a lecture mode. There is a professor, with all due respect to their knowledge, their expertise, their experience, they are the ones who are talking, and others just shut up and listen. So in my training programs, they had to get up, move around, do the activities, and talk, present themselves. That was totally coming out of their comfort zone. They were very comfortable listening to someone or not listening at all. So that kind of transformed their inner strength as well, from not being confident at all to being very confident, and now being able to face the campus interviews, the placement opportunities. And I'm still connected with a lot of students who have made it really good into the working professional space, and they're still connected. They still seek some guidance, and I'm fortunate enough to guide some people who have kept that open mindset and growth mindset. Because when you stop learning, where do you go? You don't grow, you die. So we either grow or we die. Choice is with us all the time. What do we want to do with our life? What do we want to do with the learning that we have acquired? I was a student at some point in time, but am I still a student? Yes, very much. I'm a student of life. I'm a student of experiences. And that's what I teach my 6-year-old daughter as well. Do your best. I don't expect you to be number one all the time, because you can't be. There isn't, you can't stay on that pedestal. It's a lot of pressure to stay number one all the time. You have to let others take that opportunity as well, and build your own sphere of being number one somewhere else. So yes, these skills have transferred from the time I was a student, I was a child. My mother taught me first, and then my teachers, then the mentors, then I became a mentor to somebody. Then in my aviation sphere, there were a lot of amazing leaders who I got to learn from. And leader is not someone who is at that position, whether it's a CEO or a training manager. No, leader is someone who has those qualities to help you see what is best in you and where you need to develop. And that is the real leadership. That shows you the mirror. This is who you are. Go on. Now you have the skills. I give you the freedom to shine your own light. So yeah, that's been my Amity experience, and it still stands. I'm a parent now. My child studies in Amity School.
Oh, nice.
And it's a wonderful experience in a different genre. They tell me that, as a parent, you keep us on our toes. And I said, yeah, that is what the communication is. Exactly. But it's a wonderful experience, to have been working with these amazing brands and amazing people. Because behind the brands as well, who is it that makes or breaks that brand? It's the people. It's the humans.
Just building on this, what you just said, now you've seen how skills are being imparted and how learning has evolved, right from your starting the first job to where you are right now, and in your own capacity as a CEO of the company you are running, which is Auracious. From your perspective, both skill acquisition and learning enablement, or learning to learn, how do you think has evolved over the years in the last 2 decades?
Absolutely. It last 2 decades, yes. Because that's in a nutshell what has been my working journey or learning journey. So I would say back then there was a lot of human interaction. There is a lot of technology now. Yes, technology was there, but it was not so advanced. Like now we have AI. Now we have a lot of other interventions that actually, I wouldn't say they surpass the human intelligence. They can never, because it's the humans who made AI as well. But it's just that we have a lot more assistance now. There is a lot of assisted technology that we have available, whether it is Google, whether it is, for example, in academia, if I quote that, case studies, for example, we didn't have so many to learn from. Maybe from other universities, we used to either check their papers or journals, but now we have everything at a click of a button in our hands. So that is how the skill level, the acquisition of skills, the many training programs that are in the industrial space now, whichever industry people belong to, whether it's hospitality, whether it is aviation, whether it's travel, whether it's tourism, whether it's healthcare, a lot has changed there. It is, the more content out there is in the social media space, and we are all exposed to that. But what do we really absorb from that is the crux of learning. If you want, you can keep scrolling, doom scrolling for the entire day, days together. But what do you learn from there? Who do you become? You're another doom scroller who probably hasn't absorbed anything. It's an overload of information, but you have a choice there as well. You have a choice if you're working on a goal, let's say a health goal. So you read that kind of content. It's very specific and it's very niche. I would say times have changed, and they've changed for good. Learn to change with times, and change is the only inevitable thing that keeps you going. It's a quote in my dictionary that probably I created. It's called, surrendering yourself to the process of change is the key to true self-empowerment. So if you're looking to empower yourself in any genre, in any area of your life, you need to surrender to change. You need to become someone who you aspire to become, not who you are today. Yes, recognize, accept, acknowledge who you are today. If there's something great about it, fantastic, keep that going. But if there's something that needs to be improved, recognize it and then start taking steps, because without taking any steps, you will still be in the same zone. And that is the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same things over and over again. How do you expect different results? Times have changed from 90s or 80s to up until now. It's never been the same. What stayed is change, and what will stay is change, is evolution. That's how we evolved as humans. That's how our brain evolved, and that's how the artificial intelligence is evolving as well.
Agreed. Now, very interesting. Now, you spoke about information overload. There's also one thing which is happening is skill overload and learning overload. Like today for me, I tried not to get into that mindset of doom scrolling. So if I'm on my phone or if I'm on my computer and if I have some time, I'll try to learn something. But my brain is also overworking in many ways, and there is a lot of information overload, which brings in a different problem for me, that I want to do more, achieve more, and do, because now I have so much of knowledge, I want to apply it. So there is application overload also. So how do you balance all of this in this DNA age of AI, tech, and information freely available to each and everyone?
Right. There are a few things, actually. It's a very, very good question, and I think a lot of people, especially youngsters, can learn from it a lot, because social media is available there for our convenience. We are not supposed to be slaves to that information. Rather, we are supposed to be in charge of that learning and acquire what is for us, or what do we really require. So prioritizing your learning. For example, if I have to spend 15 minutes daily learning something new, then I need to list down what is it that I want to learn new today. For example, I would quote here this platform called Mind Valley. I have been following their work for quite some time. I think I would say a few years, like 5-6 years now. And now I have actually become a member. It took me 6 years. Don't ask me why, but I was trying to explore the platform. And I feel that the information there available there is so fluid. It is so absolutely fantastic, because there are master classes that you can join. And then if your mind is more curious to learn deeper, on a deeper level, then you can enroll into a program. And that's how the information you can actually manage and control the information overload. There is an ocean of information out there. But do you require all of it? Does your mind or brain really require to process all of that? Now, another thing is, we all have stories. We all have our conditioning that we were brought up with, different cultures, different backgrounds, different genres, what our parents taught us, what our religion teaches us, a lot of, book of rules to follow. But you create your own experience. That is where actually meditation, mindfulness, some breath work, that really helps. Because when you learn to calm down that noise, when you learn to calm down that storm, you get a lot of clarity. And I would say it's been my personal experience as well, because I had so many things going on in my life at the same time. And even now, because we all juggle between different roles. You are sitting here, you have a family back there, you would be with your family at some point in time, and that's the time when you would be totally different, right? So we are trying our best to fit in all these roles, but in the end, it just becomes so exhausting that sometimes we just want to shut up. We don't want to see any more people. We don't want to talk to anyone. We don't want to absorb any more information. That is where sitting in a quiet space and just being with yourself, doesn't matter, it's dark, light, whichever environment suits you, just take some moments for yourself and work on your priorities. Keep this quiet time in your priorities, daily priorities. That is what helps with the productivity as well. That's what helps with you showing up in every sphere of your life, whatever percentage you want to give it. I will not give it 100%. I will not even give it 50%. It's up to you, whichever percentage works for you. One more thing I would like to mention here is skill versus will matrix, or urgent important matrix.
Okay.
Now, if we talk about skill and will, I have a certain amount of skill, maybe 10, 20%, but do I have the will to learn more, to change myself from what I have learned and where I want to be? There is a change, there's a process, but prioritizing that, how important, how urgent it is in my daily task list, is the key to improving or increasing productivity. Do I really need to do this right now? No. What is the 80% task that can, or 20% task that can give me 80% result? It's called the 80-20 principle as well. I'm sure you must have heard, must have read about this as well, Pareto principle. So if we apply that, and I'm talking from a professional sphere, because the Human Development Initiative, Auracious, has two spheres. One is the personal sphere, and another one is the professional sphere. Talking about the professional skills here, if you go by urgent important metrics, and it's a quadrant, so you list your urgent important tasks for the day in the first quadrant, then you go with urgent but not so important, then in the third quadrant you go with not so urgent but important, and in the fourth one, that's where you keep your doom scrolling, not urgent, not important. But if you still want to do it, you keep some minutes aside for that, so that you don't crave for that activity. That's how I would describe.
Today everybody is also talking about, Nowsheen, is, in our good old days, when we didn't have so much of technology, I miss those days when I would just be on a couch, watching out of the window, gazing to some tree, and not even thinking, just gazing the tree. And I miss that. I don't know when I've done that in the last a decade. Just letting your mind wander, letting your mind not do anything. You spoke about skill and will, but let's say there is that a third dimension which is not doing anything, because that, like you said, mindfulness and meditation and all of that, there also you're trying to calm your mind down. But in this, you're basically a zombie of sorts, uh, and letting that happen. Have you seen that?
I have experienced that, and I would say I do have those moments when you just look at something, you're still trying to absorb, and there's a lot of data that's coming from your senses. For example, are the leaves moving on that tree? You would be able to see that, and that is life. The movement of those trees, and of those leaves, and if you listen to the sound. So meditation is nothing. It's not the chanting. It's not going into the void. Please. It is actually the heightened state of awareness. When you begin to pay your attention, your focus, all your focus has to be directed. For example, in your case, when you mentioned, I would love to gaze that tree, you were not just gazing. You were actually processing or taking in a lot of information and giving out a lot of information as well. What did you really gaze there? If I may ask you, were you watching the color of the tree? Were you watching where it is, the
Nothing.
size of the tree? What
Nothing.
was it?
Nothing. It was just mindless watching, right? There was nothing. I remember those memories that I would just sit on the couch and do it, but do I remember the color of the tree? Do I remember if there were any pigeons or sparrows or crows or any of these birds? I don't remember any of that. But I would just be there for an hour or two, right? Today it may be called laziness or any of that, but it was not. But it was not that. It was actually just being like, okay, moment, right? Yeah, it's just being in the moment and living that moment, and not with an intention that I want to remember it and I want to do something with it. It was just being there and breathing.
At the same time, what you are doing is you are actually becoming aligning with nature. Your energy is being aligned with the nature energy that is available there. Even if you feel that you're not doing anything, but there is a huge exchange of energy. If you see, I think I was reading that in the news a couple of days ago. There was a device that could actually show you a leaf, what kind of
Yeah.
energy field it has. So you're not just
Yep.
watching that, you're actually absorbing all of that calm energy into yourself by just watching that, because your one sense is involved there. And if there is a sound there, then another sense gets involved. The sense of hearing gets involved there. Every data that we take, every information that we take from our environment, our surroundings, whether it is internal, whether it's external, it comes to us in the form of data. And I may just quote some figures here. It is 400 billion bits per second that comes to us
Wow.
in the form of whether someone is talking to us, whether we are seeing something, whether we are hearing something, touching, smelling, all of these senses. And what comes out from this factory, the mind, is only 2000 bits per second. What happens to the rest of the data? That's
Yeah.
still a mystery. But yes, there are some things that we were taught from the childhood. For example,
Yep.
don't don't go there, or that's a forbidden place for you, or don't touch this thing. It spoils your health, or don't eat that. So these are learned things. Does that
Yep.
mean it is true? It is going to be true all your life? No, until and
No.
unless you crush that belief, you will be with that belief all your life. And that is what awareness does. Awareness is amazing. Once you become aware, for example, this pen was not a pen to me when I was a child. My mother told
Yep.
me this is a pen. And for the rest
Yep.
of my life, it is a pen. Until and unless I choose to believe something else. So we all function on the basis of belief. The belief that was taught to us in our childhood, that you are weak, you can't do this, or you are fantastic, go on, keep going, that is a belief that kept me going in my life,
Yep.
in spite of all the struggles and hardships, and having a single mother by my side all my life taught me to keep going. That
Nice.
is the crux of life anyway.
Yeah. So Nowsheen, you spoke about the skill and will matrix, the 2 by 2 matrix. I believe there is a third dimension to it, which is the application. You may have the skill, you may have the will, but if you don't apply it, it doesn't have a compounding effect to the skill and the will aspect. Do you agree?
Absolutely, I agree. Because what you acquire as a skill is knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And when you transfer that knowledge into action, that is
Yeah.
what becomes wisdom. There's a huge difference. Knowledge is not wisdom.
Yeah.
Knowledge backed by a strong action becomes wisdom. And that is
Yeah.
what you are able to transfer as a transferable skill into some other area of your life, whether it is finance, it's health, it's spirituality. Once you start taking action on what you have imagined, what you have aspired, what you have learned, what you have acquired over the years.
Just going back to, and I'm fascinated with your airline career because I fly a lot, and as I told you, I have a lot of respect for people who do that. So what motivated you, or what transpired you to move from an airline to a university?
Learning, because
Okay.
whether it was any industry, I
Mm-hmm.
was into education industry even before. I was
Yep.
a teacher back home as well. I have been an architect as well. So
Wow.
learning never stopped. I studied buildings, I constructed buildings, but then I came out of that space because I didn't want to fit in the box anymore. I didn't want to be boxed. I wanted to be more like water. I
Nice.
wanted to be more like fluid, and immerse myself into this experience called life. Because there is not only one life that is where you belong to. You call that your home, you call that your belongingness. No. There are so many experiences in life you go through, and that is what happened over the years when I was with Emirates, with aviation, or with Jet Airways.
Yeah.
The knowledge transfer continued. I learned from, whether it was from the guests, whether it was from my team, whether it was from the entire training experience that was designed to make us more capable and climb up the ladders. And it started from being a junior crew member, and then improved the level after level. And at one point I thought, what next?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I heading with this? And it was a personal choice to step out of the aviation industry, and come into education, because education is not just literacy, it's not just academics. It is more than that. It is life. It is going through and learning on a deeper level about human behaviors. That is what actually made me step out of that zone, because it was one zone where I was actually growing in a linear direction. Like I said in the beginning as well, I probably wanted to branch out and wanted to grow in all directions. So that is what led to me going independent or going into education, and now it continues. And I think I found my passion through human connectedness, through growth, through contribution, through compassion, through a lot of empathy, because that's what stayed with me. And no one can teach you empathy. Honestly, empathy is, yes, they say is a skill, but a lot of it has to come from within. And when there is some matter within, it's up to you whether you want to develop it or you want to keep it as it is. That's the definition of growth mindset and fixed mindset. Do you want to stay fixed where you are, or you want to grow from there?
For me, empathy also, Nowsheen, on that particular point, it's not a skill, because empathy cannot be just acquired and kept in a box under your belt and saying, okay, I have a skill, which is empathy. If you can't demonstrate it, if you can't apply it, going back to that application aspect, nobody will know whether you have that skill or no. So for me, it's that if somebody tells me, hey, that person is empathetic and he really empathizes well, that's a testament, because that person has experienced that. But if I say, go out in the street, I'm the best person who knows empathy and I empathize with everyone, well, I'm not really doing that. So on that particular point about empathy being a skill, but just switching gears now, you're running your own business, you've been in corporate setup, and now switching on to being your own boss as well as running a show. That switch would have been very different for you than as compared to switching industries or switching companies.
Absolutely. Totally different, I would say, because uh, as much as you may want to call me, yes, you are the boss now, but it doesn't feel like it, because it's like I'm learning marketing. I'm learning a lot of social media. I'm learning a lot of the sales, the finance, all of it, which was not there in other industries. I was limited to my role and growing in that level. But this experience, being an entrepreneur, actually teaches you, or rather has taught me a lot of other skills as well, a lot of other fine nuances that we don't really learn when we are limited to working in one role. Yes, there is a lot of flexibility you can create for yourself, because you're not really working for someone, but you're working for your dream. You're working for your purpose. You're working for why are you getting out of the bed and showing up at your workplace every single day without fail? Why don't you just choose to be in bed all day? So that is the difference between treating the week, the 7 days, or dividing it into just weekend and weekdays, as opposed to working every day and learning and enjoying what I'm doing. Because I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this saying, when you love what you do, you don't work a single day in your life. I may not have put it in the right frame of words, but this is what it means. I enjoy what I do, and beyond giving back to society, and that is only one bit of it. That's one tiny bit of it. It's a personal fulfillment that kept me going, even if I was able to help one person and bring a smile on their face, from the kind of learning they acquired, or from the kind of relief they experienced in any of the sessions that I have been with them. Imagine a person carrying a baggage with them in their mind, on their body, in their soul for 20, 25 years. Wow. And they're able to get a relief with an intervention of a few sessions. How fulfilling is that? For me, it's amazing. It is. I can't compare it with any monetary compensation. Yes, this is what I do for living as well, and my work has to be compensated. But there is another layer to it. That is the purpose. That is where I see myself and Auracious going beyond, to become the leading light in human transformation journey and cultivating the lifelong culture of learning across the globe.
Now, on that note, Nowsheen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today, and you taking time out from your busy schedule. Uh, it's been fun, interesting conversation, and I'm sure if people hear that, they would want to know more about your travel experiences. You were able to share a few of them.
You've given me a food for thought. I think 2024 is going to be an interesting year for all, I believe, and I wish and I pray for everybody to be more successful in this year and to be more calm, more peaceful, more happy. And for me, it is, and obviously the purpose with which Auracious is launched, there will be a lot more initiatives coming up. And one of them, if I talk about personal fulfillment, will be a book, inshallah, on my travel experiences. So you have really planted a seed in there.
Hopefully, look forward to that book. There is, in fact, there are a lot of books which have come out, and these stories never end, right? Each one of us have our own travel stories. I didn't get an opportunity, but even I have some fun, interesting travel stories of places which I never imagined I could have had. But no, thanks a lot, Nowsheen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I look forward to connecting and being in touch with you. And hopefully, the audience will be looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful host and making me feel so comfortable and in my spirit and in my zone. I honestly didn't feel that I was on a podcast with you. It felt like a real conversation between two real humans, minus the technology. I even forgot about that. Yes, that's a medium that connects us because we're sitting miles away, and that's the beauty of this. But at the end of the day, it's all about human connectedness and growth. Thank you very much. Wish you more success.
Thank you.